Yo! I'm gonna finish building this cute little baby short block today. I got a thrust bearing here. And then some King main bearings. Same deal here. Make sure there's nothing on these bearings. Make sure everything's super clean. And I got the main girdle. I gotta put the bearings in these too. Everything looks nice and clean. I just gotta make sure that them oil holes are exposed. You can see the daylight through it. I cleaned my crankshaft and blew it out really good. I just want to put it in here real easy. Make sure I don't hit any of these connecting rods. I don't want them rods hitting my crankshaft. I got this crankshaft polished too. You always want to polish your crank. I'm going to use a Plastigauge because I'm not a machinist anymore, so I can't just measure this stuff with a dial bore gauge and all that jazz. As you can see, these go from 1/10 of 1 thou to 3/10 of a thou. So I'm just going to cut these with a scissors. I don't know if you guys, maybe you're not familiar with these. When you cut it open like that, there's a piece of plastic in here. I don't like using these, but I'm not a machinist anymore, so this is the only toolage I have for this. You just put it right on the crankshaft, right there. I'm going to do all of these mains the same way. Okay, I got Plastigauge on all the mains. Now I can put this on. Nice and careful like. I'm just going to gently tap it down. Then I got to oil these bolts. I got to oil the threads, otherwise it won't get the right torque reading. Get a good amount on there. And I want to put a little bit on this washer head too, so this washer can spin on the bolt really nice. Drop them in the hole. If I don't do that, the torque won't be right, and the Plastigauge measurement won't be right. There's an S and an L on these bolts too. I think the long ones go in the center and the short ones go on all the ends. You'll know if it's wrong because if you drop it in a hole and it's higher than the rest of them, then you know it's in the wrong spot. Get a nice clean socket. Run them down. Now I'm just going to start out. I'm going to start in the center and work my way out on the ends. I'm just going to kind of zero these. I want to start by torquing these to 18 foot-pounds. Then I want to final torque them to 38 foot-pounds. I'm going to double check them all. I want to loosen them all back up. Now I just want to ever so gently tap the ends to pull this up. As you can see, it makes a nice little impression. And I just want to measure the width. I'm at about 1.5 thou, which is right where I want it. You want it anywhere between 1 and 1.5. 2's okay too. I think I got a couple that are right around 2. That's not so bad. Yeah, that one's about 2. I wouldn't mind having them just a hair tighter. If they're a little too loose, you can try to go to like go to like 43 foot-pounds. I wouldn't go anything over that, just to tighten them up just a little more. Or else you got to buy bearing halves from Honda. And if you do, if you got to buy bearing halves where you get them, you can get them like a thou thicker, 1/10 of 1 thou thicker. You want to put them on the block side because all the force is going towards the oil pan. I'm going to want to get this plastic off of here, and I'm just going to use a credit card. Usually just picks right off pretty good. This is why I don't like using this stuff, this plastic. I'm going to do the same with this. Just got a sharpened pencil to get the center out, because the center didn't crush because it's in the groove. So I'm just picking that out with a sharp pencil. Normally I leave this stuff in here, but I don't like the idea. I'm just going to gently try to pick it out with a credit card. Just the little spots. Not going to get carried away. I'm just going to put this main cap in a bag for right now. Now I get to mess with these rods. I want to try not to hit these rods on the crankshaft. That didn't sound good. Oh, that's no big deal. Okay. Okay, we're good. I'm going to pull this piston up. I'll do the two on the ends first. Like so. And I just get to match up the numbers. I'm going to Plastigauge these next. This Speed Factory piece of paper is telling me to measure bolt stretch, which is cool. You want 55 to 59 10,000ths. Then they say you can do 55 foot-pounds. So I'm going to measure bolt stretch on it, but just to check my clearances, I'm going to do it 55 foot-pounds. These are all numbered. It says 784, and there's a 784 right there, so you can't screw this up. These come with ARP rod bolts, and they give you the assembly lube for the bolts. You just peel it open, and I want to put a little bit on the threads. I want to fill these threads real good. And I want to put just a little bit on the tip too. That's probably way too much. Got the 12.11 millimeter here. It's probably like a 7/16. Now when I do this, I just got to try real hard not to turn the crankshaft. I'm just going to zero them first. Just go a little at a time. These love to come off. It's right at 1.5 thou. That's right where I want it. That's exactly where I want the thing. Now that I know this one's good, I'm going to put a couple drips of oil on it. I can actually push this down a little too and put a drip on the cap. That works pretty good. I'm just holding up on the cap while I pound down on it. This one's right at a thou, so it's a little tighter, and a thou is good. I knew someday I could use my credit card for something. I don't have a wife, so it never gets used. Now I got the rod journals oiled. The bearings are all lubed. And I got a stretch gauge here. And all these are going to be a little different as far as the length goes. They can be off just a little bit. But I set this so it's 0. And generally too, you want to make sure that these bolts kind of keep their length after you torque them, but I didn't do that, so they should be fine. So I got this set to 0. Now you want to make sure that they're loose too. You don't want any tension at all on these bolts when you first set them. I'll just double check it just to make sure it's cool, and it is. It's at 0. Now I want to stretch these 55 to 60 thousandths. I can only do these one at a time too. I got my torque wrench still set at 55 foot-pounds. I'm at my 55 foot-pounds. It's almost 5. I got to go a little more. There we go. I'm right at about 57, which is a good number. So yeah, the 55 foot-pounds they're talking about, that's a little light. Turn this around and do the other one. Now I can start on my other two. Now on these I just got to go real slow, because when I turn it, the rods are going to hit the block, so I got to pull up on these pistons. Turn it a little more, pull up on them a little more. Okay. Okay, I got them all, and they're all well over 55 foot-pounds of torque. So I'm just going to double check them all just to make sure I didn't miss any of them. Just give them all a click. Because it's better safe than sorry. Yep, I got them all. Put some oil on the mains. I'm just going to turn this over and get these bottom bearings filled with oil. Thrust bearings are next. You always want the groove sides facing the crankshaft. Put a little bit of oil on it and stick it in the hole. One on each side, of course. Like so. And of course, I oiled the main bearings. I can finally tip this thing up, make it a little easier for me to torque these bolts. Now with 2 cylinders at top dead center and 2 cylinders at bottom dead center, there's dwell time on both of these pistons and connecting rods, so it's a good idea to just grab the top of the crank and make sure you can turn the thing. I can turn it by hand, so that's good. It means nothing's binding up. Feels really nice. Golden. Well, I had these oil galley plugs removed to clean out these galleys in here, and I can't find any torque on these. You don't need any sealant on them. You don't need a seal on them, because if they do leak a little bit, it's just going to leak down into the block, so it's really no big deal. But I'm just going to take a wild stab at it. I'm going to go with 40 foot-pounds on this. And I don't think that's going anywhere. And I got some bigger ones on the ends here. This bigger one is a 12 millimeter. I'm going to torque that to about 60. See how that feels. All that looks good and normal. I don't see any major cylinder scoring. It looks really good. Well, I got my oil pump all nice and clean. There's one little line on this oil pump, so I know I got this rotor right. Yeah, that's wrong. I want to put it in the same position. This is a hunting rotor too, and that means that it's, when it walks around, every single one of these fingers will hit sooner or later. So if it was non-hunting, there's usually a mark on the gears on different vehicles, but this one's not like that. I'm going to put this in here dry. I got to prime the pump when I build the engine, but I just don't want the mess, so I'm going to leave it dry. I'm going to put a little bit of Loctite on these screws, just because I don't want them coming off. Just a little drip. These are number 3 Phillips, so don't use a number 2 screwdriver on these if you're going to do one of these. That would be wrong. Just going to go a little at a time here. These are tapered screws, and I want them to center up really nice. These probably only need to be like 6 to 8 foot-pounds. It's kind of hard to do with a screwdriver, so I'm just going to bear down on them. Make sure my rotor turns. It does. Now for this pin, I'm going to put a little bit of oil on this for sure. I don't want this sticking in the bore. Put a good couple drips on it. It slides in and out real nice. Okay, it's stuck. Oops. Yeah, you want to make sure these are super clean too. You don't want any crud in this oil pump at all. Nothing. So, alright, it slides in and out. It's not stuck. That's all I care about. Some people tell you to put a washer on this edge right here, like a really small one. I don't see the point. I'm not going to do it. People try to do that to get more pressure out of it. So it takes more pressure for the relief valve to open up, but I'm not going to do it. You could basically take this washer out. I mean, it's a sealing washer, so if you take it out, it'll leak, but it'll leak right into the oil pan. It'll be just a little bit, but that's pretty thick too. It's probably thicker than you're going to want. I'm going to run the stock oil pressure, so I'm not messing with any of that crap. I can't imagine why it would need more pressure. And I got to put this plug in here. I got some PTFE thread sealant here. I'll put some thread sealant on it. Stretch it on real nice. I just kind of cleaned up the bottom too to make sure nothing's going to be in the hole. I don't want any Teflon running through my engine. There, that shouldn't leak. Anytime I use both of these, usually makes a super good seal. It's insurance. I don't see any in there either, so that's good. And my front seal I can just push in by hand. Oh, that is pretty tight. It's hurting my fingers. It is rather crude, but that'll help it drain out really nice. All of these should get torqued to 9 foot-pounds, so that's about, I don't know, 12 times 9, 108 inch-pounds. Got a little baffle here I got to put on. Pretty much every bolt I have left I think is 6 by 1 millimeter. So they're all at like 9 foot-pounds, 107 inch-pounds. Except for the oil pump pickup screen, they say is 17 foot-pounds, and I'm pretty sure that's just these two nuts. Now on my crankshaft, since this is a used shaft, there's a little wear ring for the sealing surface on the oil pump seal. And I got just a little bit of a ring on the rear main too. There's actually 2 grooves right here. So, instead of pounding this all the way in, I left it sit back about probably less than a 1/16 of an inch. And I already put some oil on the seal, but I got a little bit of grease. I'm going to put a little bit of grease on here because then I'm going to mock this up and it's going to tell me where the seal is going to be sitting, because I want to make sure that it's not in that groove. I just got to make sure these are the drivers right here, and I got to make sure those are on the flats of the crankshaft. Just going to pound this in. Tap it in on the alignment pins. Tap the thing back out. I can tell by looking at it that the seal is going to be on the inside of this groove. It's just barely on the inside right there, which is good. That's where I want it. If it's out too far too, this dust seal is not going to touch the crankshaft. It's not really crucial. It just keeps the dust out of the seal. But I got it just enough so it's just barely touching this crankshaft. I'm going to wipe this grease off because I don't need it. I already got the seal oiled. I got an O-ring for this. Just got to make sure that wants to stay in there. This requires ultra gray. I got Honda Bond. Don't need much, about 1/8 of an inch bead. Just a very small amount. Maybe a 1/16 of an inch bead. I really don't want any on this oil ring, so I'm going to wipe it off. That should be fine, just so long as it doesn't, when this gasket sealant smooshes out, it's not gonna smush on the inside of this O-ring, because the O-ring's gonna seal before the gasket sealant gets smushed. wipe the excess off of here. Same with this one, I'm just going to try to push it in with my thumbs. I don't know, I got a long ways to go. So I'm just going to mock this up and see what it looks like. Yeah, I made this seal flush so it's sealing right there, and that groove is way on the inside. So I didn't quite pound it all the way in, and that'll be really nice, just like that. It'll seal. Put some oil on it. I just want to double check my work and make sure all the oil, all the sealant's squished out of it all the way around. Now for this pickup tube. For whatever reason, they're saying they want these 17 foot-pounds instead of 9 like all these other 6x1 millimeters. When I see that, a lot of times I don't believe it. So I'm going to tighten these down at 108 inch-pounds, which is 9 foot-pounds, just like the rest of all these 6x1 millimeters. And I'm just going to go a little bit at a time until I get to my target 17 foot-pounds. If something feels weird, I'm not going to over-tighten them and start breaking stuff. You don't want to put any sealant on this gasket either. Leave that sucker dry. It's basically oil pump vacuum. It's not pressure. Of course, I had this pickup tube clean. You got to look down in here and make sure there's nothing in that screen. It's all really nice looking. Do a little math. 17 times 12, that's 204 inch-pounds, which is going to max out my wrench. I can't believe this is right. It don't feel right at all. Turn this down a little bit. I'm going to go up just a little at a time. Jeez, that's just unbelievably tight. Well, I got it. That's 204 inch-pounds. I don't think these should go at all because they're not even studded. Just don't feel right. I'm going to leave these at 108. I'll go a little more. I can't believe these gotta go 17 foot-pounds on a 6x1 millimeter into aluminum like that. So I'm gonna leave it. I don't know, I got it a little tighter than 108. There's 160. $170. Yeah. I'm going to leave these at 170 inch-pounds. Seems too tight to me. I don't believe it. If I was to guess, I'd say these should be 108 and these should be 204. So 9 and 17. Oil pan time. I don't have all the studs for this, so I got to use bolts on a few of them. I just want to put some gasket sealant on these mating surfaces. All four. I might as well fill these edges up too. I'm just going to put a little bit on this gasket line. Just because I don't trust it for some reason. There it is. One assembled short block. I think that's enough for the day. Okay, bye.